How's it going? What's this? What's this on the table? This is crazy. Lots of I've got my air conditioning on. Not my air conditioning, the humidifier. It's pulsing with the bass. Borrowed a Push 2. Which is pretty fun. Borrowed it from work. From the having to earn money and all that. Not used a Push before ever. Don't really use Ableton a massive amount to make music in. Kind of do things with collaborations and whatnot. But I'm always kind of using a mixture of different stuff. So like creating a whole load of stuff in Ableton is not something I always do or do regularly enough really. So I figured, and I guess like one of the main reasons that's the case is like I used to work at the computer like a lot, and the last thing I want to do is sit back at the computer making music. So I typically would use like my computer to kind of record and edit and do mixes and that sort of thing. But to make music, and I haven't done. But the Push, I mean, it's been around for ages. I kind of was looking online. I think it's like 8 years old now or something crazy. Maybe I've got the number wrong, but it seems like older than I realized. Obviously the Push 3's out or very nearly out. I think people are getting them. First impressions of the Push 2 is it's sticky. I mean, for anyone who's got one of these, like, my God, man, like, it's like the whole bass is like glue from this rubber coating. So that's a bit crap. But apart from that, like, it definitely feels a bit old in the encoders. You might have seen in that little intro, like, the loading is ridiculously slow. That is nothing. That's purely my laptop running like my audio card, running OBS, recording this. It's probably glitching like crazy, and then trying to flick through the menus, like it just wasn't having it. So, but otherwise, it's really quick. It seems pretty elegant. Like you can definitely feel like the fidelity of the encoders and stuff maybe like has improved, or probably almost certainly has improved since this first come out. So it'd be interesting to see what the Push 3's kind of like. But aside from that sort of stuff, like and the stickiness, really cool. Really impressed with it. It really brings like using Ableton. So like the main problem I have with Ableton is really the same with not with Ableton specifically, but with any kind of computer stuff. Apart from sitting in front of the computer, it's this kind of interaction with a computer to make music with. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're used to that. But I've kind of grew up around like hardware and Atari ST. Like Atari ST is like the most computer that would sort of land the studio, with the exception of like the 2000 era where pretty much sold everything and was doing sort of glitchy kind of laptop stuff for quite a while. Really just like the speed and flexibility and kind of like maneuverability physically, that is my hands, but also just me as a person moving around a room with that you get with hardware. And when you kind of sit with a laptop or a desktop or whatnot, there's a whole like you just don't move. Like my partner, she just kindly made me some food, and she said, you need to stand up. I said, I'm just going to quickly make a video, and that was like, I don't know, like it's 4:00 here when I'm recording this. I sat down this morning. So, which comes to the other thing with computers, you can, and specifically Ableton, for it's such an amazing software, but you can just keep going. Like you can just keep going and keep going and keep going, and there's just so much flexibility and manipulation, and all the devices and everything and instruments and everything are really, really amazing. You can just keep editing, which is not a bad thing, but I think I like tweaking stuff, and I like kind of playing around, but I like it to be immediate as well. So I think it's been interesting kind of diving back in a bit more recently, and then remembering like, oh yeah, man, you've really got to step back from the laptop or computer, or more specifically probably DAWs, and then kind of re-engage them again to kind of have that separation that typically you kind of get almost automatically in a studio because you're moving around a bit more. You're interacting with different boxes, and sometimes you've got to patch stuff in, so it's kind of a bit different. So there's a real kind of like intense focus that happens that can kind of get a bit dizzy after a while. So it's been kind of fun and madness or mad orientated. I don't know, mad inducing. That's the one. Doing this. So, and also like this isn't particularly complicated. Like to kind of more to the point. Let's kind of stop this because I guess like it might move around the menus a bit quicker. Oh my God, it's not. Yeah, I've basically got right like I've got a simpler, which is for those of you who don't know, is basically just kind of triggers a sample for a quick explanation. So I've just got basically a waveform in here, which I think is like based on the Mini Moog. It's in one of the packs. It's just a saw wave from what I remember from the 4 hours ago I started. And then I've just kind of been using the filters in there. I wanted to use a sample as opposed to like a digital or analog emulation kind of thing, because it kind of reminded me of like old Akai's. So I've got that running through some filters, and then I've also got like its own cycle of the using the LFOs to kind of cycle through the filter as well. So this is kind of like a constant like jittering around. The other thing I've got like channel EQ, which I quite like because it reminds me of old Mackie consoles, like the basic ones. You just got bass, mid sweep and high, and you can immediately get close to that kind of like workflow or that kind of sound, which I really like. I've been really enjoying pedal. It's kind of it just creates like enough of a kind of console distortion, but it's sort of integrated, other than sort of other ones like in ear and overdrive, and I think amp and other sort of other saturations and things are good. But I quite like this one. It's just a bit more abrasive. I've got another filter in there just to do some filtering. This case it's a notch. Really like the vinyl distortion as well. I've got a plugin actually, which I don't use as much, which I really should, but I forget who it is, but it basically models the like the distortions that you get when you cut a record. I really love that. Like when like certain old records that I've got, I can't remember off the top of my head, but you know, I'm sure if you've got any vinyl, especially if it's old stuff, there'll be a record in there with those hi-hats, specifically if they're like 808 or 606, kind of those metallic hi-hats. They just kind of really distort in the top end, especially if they're doing something a bit more crazy. So like the early Warp stuff, I know Steph and Becky done some mastering on some of his Pole stuff that had really crunchy, like desaturated hats, where maybe he's done something in the master to kind of deal with that in another way, but it certainly has that kind of quality where it's like, as a format, it's screaming, I can't deal with these frequency. Vinyl distortion kind of does something similar, or it is quite different, obviously, but it's got like, I don't know, it's quite a creative tool to work with, so I've been enjoying that. Utility, obviously, just to sort out bass mono, really. That's kind of what I mainly use it for, and volumes. So that's it, and it's just doing a simple melody, like much like I do with pretty much every video I've uploaded. It's just hitting some random notes, and then just kind of like to get movement and to get like basses and highs and just kind of some sort of energy going, and then I can kind of use those to sort of sculpt sounds on top of using filters and LFOs and whatnot. It would be really nice within Push to be able to key in this like you can, like step sequencing, like the 101 does this, and you can do it in Ableton using the computer. Like you turn on like the Audition, there's like a little set of headphones that you can kind of turn on, and then you hold the note down and you press right on the cursors, and you can kind of just bang 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 all these notes in an order without having the sequencer running. I really like that technique because you can just sort of tap, put them in, hit play, and then you're off, as opposed to kind of having to manually perform something. I obviously do that as well, but for this, I kind of really like doing that. You can't do that with the Push, at least I've not worked out how to. So, and also some quick Googles of like things that I typically do, and realizing I can't find that in the Push, and yeah, lo and behold, you can't do it. So, that was one thing. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, grouping. Like you can't group stuff in the Push. You have to do it outside. And you can't, the other thing, you can't enable like your return tracks as, you can't turn the sends on in your return. So like, Like if I wanted to have like the ability to, my God, it's so. If I want to have the ability to turn up my sends in returns, I can't because I need to enable them in the computer. But you can just set up a project to do that. The other thing is I've got basically a duplicate of that like little oscillator thing that I just went through, and I've just changed some of the settings so it's kind of like a higher version of it, like a tinny sort of version. And I think I moved like the start point so it's kind of the patterns are offset, so you've kind of got without having to do much editing MIDI wise or note wise, I can just say like just start over here and it kind of creates this bit of movement. I think that's quite interesting because you can sort of like find a pattern or find a mood that just sort of works, and you're talking more like, I guess it's like melodic, but it's also not in tune because you've got enough, or I've got enough sort of processing in the filters and resonances on the filters that you don't really get like the sense of like this note's in tune with this one. It's not that, it's just a more kind of abstract kind of texture. The other thing I've got, bloody hell man, this is so slow with OBS running. The other thing is this. So using Echo, because I upgraded my Ableton like last week, so I didn't actually use Echo before, which is kind of like a more like it reminds me of like the Dynacord kind of delays, like the really old delays, like some BBD delays, where you've got a much more kind of, instead of a sort of strict delay, you've got like a more sort of stereo spread, almost reverb like delay. And the cool thing with this, which I really like, is the EQ section, or the filter section I should say. You can really kind of like, it's got resonances on a high pass and low pass resonance, and then the frequencies for each of them. So you can really kind of start, I should have done some of that in the intro, but forgot, because I forget stuff. That it's really, you can really kind of pull up like the effects, so they end up becoming like I like often with my effects, they become their own, they're almost the lead as opposed to the source that's driving them. The effect becomes the lead. So that's really, I really kind of like that. Big fan of that. That kind of feels very much like like running a delay back into a mixer and then having the control on the mixer to do that. I have got EQ on the sort of return, so I can EQ the effect as well. And I've also got this sort of the phaser flanger, which is their sort of newer phaser flanger. I think mine's on the phaser setting, and I've got some phasing basically. It's pretty cool. Like, I don't like it when the feedback's up. It gets a bit like it feels a bit like I don't know, it feels a bit digital. When you turn the feedback up, it sounds a bit tubey, like a bit like resonant body of a like a long tube or something. There's a place for that, obviously, but I kind of like those. I like really rich or really abrasive flanges, like rich phases of really abrasive flanges, like those old quadraverbs and some pedals like Boss pedals or whatnot that just sound like vicious, like a nail down the blackboard flanger. Like I'm all for them, especially putting 808 hats and 606 hats through them. It's crazy, but let's this is kind of like I'm still getting used to this bloody thing, but it doesn't help when it's fucking slow. This is kind of like the kind of main bit, I suppose, and you would kind of heard that at the start, like it's interesting kind of like how the filter kind of reacts on that, and you kind of, I think it's actually on the other filter I'm using. Oh, this slowness is killing me, absolutely killing me. I hate this sort of stuff. It's like slower than my Atari by quite a lot. You can kind of do where are we? This one here, I think. Probably should just use the undo button, don't I, really, given it's this slow. Yeah, this sort of thing. So maybe I'll use the main volume. I think it's going to be easier. Yeah, this sort of thing. You can bring out different sort of given the chain that this is in, so like if you've not seen this sort of thing before, like just it's left to right, right? This thing goes into this thing, goes into this thing, goes into this thing, and then you can kind of navigate around. So the filter settings that I'm changing are influencing the vinyl distortion essentially, and then anything else that comes after that, all that it's sent into. So what I really like about that is you kind of get the sense of like what the kick drum is almost, or what the fundamental sort of sound is that's sort of driving it. So as it kind of comes up to this area, it's almost like this mid knock. But down here it's a bit more like a metronomic sort of like quality. Here it's like this dubby kind of quality because you're basically taking out those frequencies. And you've got this sub, and then you've got this kind of high abrasive stuff. So I really like that. And the filters sound really good in this as well. I'm sort of perched weird because this equipment's like quite big. I feel out of breath just like hovering. Yeah, it sounds alright. It sounds alright. I'm kind of, that's obviously not a surprise to many of you, but I think I've probably been internally critical of Ableton in the past, and just on preferences, I suppose. But I think probably having used the rhythm for so bloody long recently, coming back to something like this is like, it's alright. I'm kind of digging it. Anyway, so that's this one. And then let's mute that. This one is kind of more, like I said, a high frequency version of that. So, and this is more sort of sent into the sort of echo a bit more. At this point, you can't really hear the effect of it because it's set to really high. But as you kind of lower this, so this was kind of like a case of like changing the structure of the track just by kind of filtering it up. And because the echo is sort of set to pick up certain frequencies, it's kind of out of its range. And as you kind of lower it, get that sort of thing, which I love that sort of stuff, because it sort of I think I set up some gates and stuff on the echo. You can do stuff like I think they call it coloration in this, but it's basically like it's like a noise gate, and then you can trigger, I could show you, but it'll probably take me longer to click on it because it'll take so bloody long to load. Yeah, it kind of just like it works on a threshold, and it's like, am I going to let through the sound to trigger the echo, or am I not? So at the high frequencies, it's less likely to trigger. So I really like that. I mean, both of these sections arguably could be put through like a really nice effect chain. And you could just by tweaking that, you could spill out into other effects more radically, I think, and then kind of come back to this thin, just to kind of get a sense of like it's a real. I really like that stuff where you have like a sound that's, you just press one button and it just chains off into loads of things, and just by simple manipulation you can kind of explore like how that simple change affects all the effects afterwards without having to do a great deal. Just, you got obviously the setup at the beginning. This has an element of that, and the kind of echo is pretty cool when that when you can kind of run the feedback to be quite long. Where are we? Delay. My God, it's slow. Yeah, so it's up quite high actually already. Brain. Man, even the colours. You can see the colours. You're trying to refresh. I find this quite confusing actually. Like, it's sort of like you can be on a mix mode and be on a different page, and it's not actually affecting that one. I'm not sure what this page is supposed to be showing me, because it sort of shows me like a state of a previous one and this one. Because in my mind, like, I should be able to change like you know, the sends of, you know, like, does that make sense? It just seems really confusing to me. So I'm finding I'm having to kind of go to this page to adjust the ascends to the effects, and then some of those carry over to this page, depending on what, you know, button I'm on. So I'm constantly finding I'm turning a dial thinking it's going to affect this, and it's not. It's affecting the other one. So I'm finding that a bit confusing. So maybe I'll work it out. But yeah. But yeah, it seems pretty light at the moment. But yeah, I mean, basically that's it. I mean, there's nothing to it really. It's quite fun. I kind of had this idea like reasonably quickly, and then the majority of the time it's just been messing around with distortions and EQs and just kind of wondering what direction to go and trying to dial it in a little bit. And I found that, considering there's so much you can do and so much control, the dialing in part was surprisingly long. But you know, like, I think that's just purely through, I guess it's that combination of when you're trying out something and you're kind of interacting with it, there's a lot going on, right? You're kind of thinking, you're learning and you're experimenting and you're trying to create at the same time. And it's, you know, you don't realize how much like your brain is trying to work stuff out. My brain feels like the refresh rate of the screen right now. But yeah, I thought I'd just quickly make a video because I've not done one for a bit of a week, I suppose, because I've been busy with prepping for work and whatnot. So and I thought, yeah, man, I've got to send this back on Monday, so I'm only going to have it for a few more days. And I thought, well, you know, it'd be good to sort of put this up and have it marked and as something I can remember that I've used. Yeah, maybe I'll get a Push 3 in the future. The big thing, the first thing I saw in information that they've updated, and people have asked questions like, has this been updated? Has this been updated? Top question was, does it end up being really sticky after a while? And apparently no, it won't. So they've changed the casing. So it's like a weird rubber, and it's just like, yeah, it's like glue. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hope you liked that one. I'm quite enjoying it. If you've got access to a Push and you've not used one, or you can borrow one, you've not used one, it's worth trying. If you're an Ableton user, I definitely recommend it. They're quite expensive though, so maybe borrow someone's secondhand sticky one, or something like that. Nice one. I will see you in the next one. Cheers for listening. Cheers.